Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga, the Ruby and Sapphire arc, as we enter into the final volume. And I thought we were going into the Emerald arc after this, but no, after this it's Fire Red and Leaf Green. Because one thing I was aware of, but I didn't realize it happened this soon, was that it was the end of last arc that is I think the last time until much later down the line, where the Pokemon manga started kind of running into a little bit of issues with the releases of the game. Things started kind of releasing, and so the manga needed to release something to coincide with the game, but they still hadn't finish certain story arcs, so things started to overlap. And if I'm correct, while this was being published, this volume, or at least the contents of this volume were being published, we had the production of the Fire Red and Leaf Green story arc, as well as the Emerald story arc, and then, like, the year after the Emerald story arc started, then Ruby and Sapphire finally ended. So I don't know how one person drawing all this and one person coming up with the story, how they managed to make this all work in the end. 'Cause man, I can just only imagine how wonky this all got. And we talk about, in the US, the longest running licensed publication was Sonic the Hedgehog, when that was running in Archie. But with the way the Pokemon manga, if it had been never ending, that probably would have been a little bit easier. But because each story kind of goes into something else, and I think some story arcs are their own separate thing instead of being like a concurrent ongoing series of volumes, that kind of messed up how that kind of worked. But I gotta applaud these guys for just managing to get all these stories to a good conclusion, and to a point where I don't hear a lot of bad things about the Pokemon Adventures manga. I'm checking out more stuff that actually, at least I avoid spoilers as much as I can, but stuff that actually talks a little bit about the Adventures manga, or Pokemon Special if you want to call it that, and goes a little bit into it, and how the release schedules for a lot of these just something else. Right up until very recently, shit, I think they've only just released stuff for Scarlet and Violet, and I think they managed to clear out what they had for Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon. So I don't envy the release schedule on all that. I'll get more into that as I go along and talk about how once we get to the series that lasted 7 years in order to complete, because new games kept popping up, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of all that. Oh man, that was a fun thing to learn about. But previously on the Ruby and Sapphire arc, in the clash between Kyogre and Groudon, Ruby and Sapphire were whisked away to a Mirage Island, where time flows differently, by Juan, Tate, and Liza, in order for them to train, while Steven, Wallace, and the Elite Four had awoken the legendary giants Regirock, Regice, and Registeel in order to contain the destruction that was the clash between Kyogre and Groudon. For Ruby and Sapphire, it was 3 days. For the rest of the world, it was 21. Which, man! But once they had awoken from their injuries, time was able to slow down for the rest of the world, while time sped up for them, meaning they could get in a good amount of training, grow their Pokemon and their skills and their relationship, only for it to be revealed the reason why specifically they are going to be the ones to save the world. The red and blue orbs, after the expulsion from Archie and Maxie, found their way into Ruby and Sapphire themselves, meaning they would be the ones with their training to be able to subdue Kyogre and Groudon. As they went to leave the island finally, Sapphire reveals that she had fallen in love with Ruby, and on their way back to the mainland, it is revealed that Ruby and Sapphire had met when they were younger, Ruby having saved the young Sapphire. Ruby was more rough and tumble when he was younger, and Sapphire more prim and proper. But after a run-in with a Salamence, and Ruby kind of scaring Sapphire despite the fact that he had saved her, Ruby wanted to be more dignified and refined and elegant for the young Sapphire, and Sapphire wanted to grow stronger and more capable. Their encounter those years ago shaped their lives up to this point, and the revelation that was the fact kind of shook them a little bit, but it filled them with even more determination, wanting to help each other and be with each other. But Ruby, now knowing the truth, decides to take away Sapphire's blue orb and take on Kyogre and Groudon with the help of, oddly enough, Courtney of Team Magma, all in an effort not to put Sapphire in harm's way, showing that though Ruby has grown as a person, he's still a little bit selfish to a certain degree. But will Ruby manage to do it with only Courtney's help, or is it going to take the two who started this journey to finish it? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, Pokemon Adventures Ruby and Sapphire Volume 22. And we get to see Ruby and his whole team, and because they're on the cover, and spoiler alert, he gets that Milotic, and he gets his Curlia back? He gets Rara back? Really? I wonder how his Pokemon lineup's gonna turn out after this. But we gotta put in his Swampert and his Mightyena. Shoutouts to my favorite Pokemon of the region. Alright, let's jump in. Hey, the gang's all here. With the chairman and his freaky fro in the middle. Oh, Pokemon Association president, sorry. Oh, somehow Sapphire got back her Wailord and Relicanth? Oh, the silhouettes of Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise. Oh, because Ruby and Sapphire coming up next. I mean, no, Fire Red and Leaf Green. Sorry. Alright, it all ends now. Part 1. And you see the silhouette of another favorite of mine? Rayquaza. And I think I already explained that I ended up becoming a fan of Rayquaza because of the Destiny Deoxys movie. I don't know, I just thought it was real cool. Originally it would have been Kyogre, but Rayquaza's just so cool. And the fact that it's the only thing that can stop the two, like come down and say, stop fighting! Yeah, dum-dums! Sapphire, now locked inside Wallace's car, shouts, "Scar over your forehead! You're Ruby! You're the boy who saved me from that Salamence?" Courtney flies up with her Swellow, yeah, there you go, saying, "Are you done saying your goodbyes?" Ruby turns to her saying, "Yes, let's go, Courtney." Leaving her for another woman already. So Courtney takes off with her Swellow, and Ruby flies off on Sapphire's Trophius in order to stop Kyogre and Groudon's battle. Ruby shouting, wheels both the red and blue orbs as best he can, all while Sapphire watches, tears in her eyes. Oh, and he'll even left behind Plusle and Minun too, dang. Meanwhile, Swampert does his best to keep any debris away from Ruby as he goes in. But the blast of Kyogre and Groudon's clash is really keeping everyone at bay. Wallace watches from on top of Registeel saying, "What's going on?" Ruby and Sapphire trained under Master Juan and came back, but Ruby locked Sapphire in my air car and is fighting together with that Magma admin instead? What are you thinking, Ruby? I believed you could become Hoenn Hope by working with Sapphire. That's why I sent you both to my master and had him train you. But why? Why? Steven tells him, "Calm down, Wallace. It's too dangerous to leave her there. You have to get Sapphire." Wallace says, "Huh? Oh, right." And we see the others on top of the Reggies keeping things as stable as possible, with Sydney and Drake on top of Reggie Rock. Sydney says, "They've been fighting for such a long time, but they don't seem tired at all." Drake says, "They're both true to their name of being the legendary Pokemon of Hoenn." But Sydney, while Glacia is having the same conversation with Phoebe, saying, "They're bottomless energy. Yes, it's starting to produce another phenomenon, Phoebe." Phoebe says, "Oh, Phoebe? Phoebe or Phoebe?" Well, Phoebe says, "I've noticed it too, Glacia." Drake says, "The energy emanating from their clash is trapped. Since it's being contained from three sides, it has been pushed back into the Sutopolis city area. Glacia says, but the fight between Kyogre and Groudon is continuing and growing stronger by the minute. Phoebe says, that means the energy inside the containment area is increasing. If it can't dissipate, where will all that exponentially multiplying energy go? I don't know who says it, but they say up. Slowly and slowly, it's rising up into the sky. Oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing, though? We cut to Tropheus being pelted by the debris flying up towards it from Kyogre and Groudon's clash, and Ruby catches sight of Wallace's air car taking off. He thinks to himself, did I make the right choice? He remembers Sapphire's words, I have a crush on you. And he thinks to himself, nice girl tells me she likes a guy like me, and she turns out to be the girl I never forgot. I finally got to meet her again. But Courtney calls out to him, hey, one moment you've made up your mind and the next you're wavering? You're going to get dragged into their battle if you don't keep your focus. Ruby says, I know. He gives a smile, while Courtney asks, what's on your mind? Ruby says, oh, just that I never thought I'd see the day I'd be fighting together with you. He then thinks, not until we met again on Mirage Island. Wait, what? Oh, she was the other figure who was watching for Mirage Island. How did she follow him there, though? When did she follow him there? We flash back to when Ruby was on Mirage Island, looking at his Pokédex saying, Pokédex seems to be malfunctioning. Suddenly, something turns on. He says, what the? These are Sapphire's records, but this is my Pokédex. I guess the force of the battle between the two ancient Pokémon somehow mixed together the records of our two Pokédex. I don't know if that's how that works, but whatever. She jumped 521 times. She went out to sea 42 times, bathed in a hot spring once, which is... why is there so much detail? He looks up to where Sapphire is sleeping, thinking, while I was having an easy time riding around in Gabby's car, Sapphire was traveling the vast Hoenn region all on her own. Should I even mention that? Like, Sapphire was really exploring while Ruby was just going from boop, 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 boop. Suddenly a voice calls to him in the darkness. As Courtney lights up one of her horn lighters, she says, got a minute? Looking to Ruby with a smile, Ruby brings out Swampert saying, you're one of Team Magma's admins. What are you doing here? But Courtney laughs, saying, I decided I would chase you to the ends of the world, if that's what it took. Doesn't matter where you are, even on Mirage Island. Ruby says Tate and Liza mentioned they felt the presence of something. Courtney walks towards her saying, I'm sure they did. But Plusle and Minun snuck onto the island too, and Tate and Liza thought that was who they sensed. Ruby asks, what are you up to now? As Courtney just pushes Swampert aside, saying, don't get so worked up. I'm here to make a proposal. She stomps her foot on a nearby rock, saying, you're going to leave this island to face those ancient Pokemon again. And I know you've been planning to team up with that girl. How would you like to team up with me instead? See, this is how I know the artist knows what he's doing with Courtney, because I'm seeing like the underside of her thigh, and then there's another panel with just her leg in the frame, and I'm just like, you know what you're doing to me. But Ruby is shocked, saying, that's crazy. You're a Team Magma admin. You want Groudon to keep fighting, and that's why I'm trying to stop. What I'm trying to stop. How could we ever join forces? Courtney shrugs a little, saying, I understand your misgivings, but the fight was our leader's plan. I didn't really care what it was, as long as I could have some fun along the way. And I'm pretty satisfied since I got to watch this jamboree for a while. But to be honest, it's gotten out of hand. Both Team Magma and Team Aqua have taken this whole thing too far. What's the point of destroying the Hoenn region? That's something I can't allow. That's why I'm asking you to join me. She looks back to Ruby, who has a determined look in his eyes, but he doesn't respond. Courtney then looks away, saying, I know more about Groudon than you do. You're in the process of training your mind. What do you think will happen to that girl if she gets taken over by an orb? A flash of a crazed Sapphire runs through Ruby's mind as he unclenches his fist and joins hands with Courtney as she says, so, have we got a deal? In present day, Courtney looks to him saying, that's all I needed you needed to say. You were convinced. I guess that girl means a lot to you. I'm jealous. Okay, so Courtney really was kind of interested in Ruby, which I don't know how to feel considering that I'm pretty sure she's like twice his age. Again, he's like 11, but Ruby questions, what did you say? Courtney holds out her hand saying, you're going to accomplish great things with me now. Let's give this a go and order those legendaries to cease and desist. As she takes one of the orbs, probably the red orb. Okay, go. From this map, Rayquaza is almost at Sootopolis. Okay, yeah, Ruby did up and jack Sapphire's Tropius. I was wondering, I'm like, wait a minute, did Ruby take Sapphire's Tropius? In fact, he did indeed take the Tropius. Somehow he forced the trade. Sapphire got Plusle and Ruby got Tropius. Yeah, and I was right, it was level 52. It's fun that we can actually see the levels. Hey, Castform is good in all air. Jeez, in terms of Pokemon contests. Oh, Ruby's team is like not lacking in damn near any areas. That's kind of impressive. And while Ruby still has a whole contest to it, which he'll probably do easily, the way he's gone through them, Sapphire just has one badge left to get. How many days was it though? 3? Alright, destination Sootopolis. Will Rayquaza get there in time? At chapter 261. It all ends now. Wait, is that... Hold on. Oh, when they said the energy was rising into the sky, I didn't realize the whole of Sootopolis was rising into the sky. They're pulling an endgame, making Angel Island from Sonic the Hedgehog. Holy crap. When they said it was rising into the sky, I'm just like, okay, the energy's gonna shoot up. I didn't realize that the whole of the contained energy was causing the whole of Sootopolis to just go, that's kind of crazy. Well, as Sootopolis rises into the sky, man, how does any of these places end up going back to normal after all the destruction of the region? Drake on top of Regirock says, they've torn up the land and flown into the air, but they're still fighting. Glacia watches on top of Regice with Phoebe saying, what's happening up there? So the Regis are still containing things. At the very least, with them being up in the air, maybe it'll cause a little less destruction to Hoenn. As we see at the epicenter, their energies are still just whipping around. But in come Courtney and Ruby. Oh, landing in front of the temple too. Ruby says to Courtney, come on, let's do this. As they both raise the orbs in the air, waving their hands like they just don't care. They both say, we order you, in the name of the red orb and the blue orb, ancient Pokemon, Kyogre and Groudon, cease your senseless fighting and return to your land of peace. And they just gotta ignore it. Like, nah fam, fight. We run in the ones. Courtney gets angry saying, they still only have eyes for each other. Maybe our orders aren't strong enough. Let's attack them with our Pokemon to get their attention. Ruby says, okay Courtney. Ruby brings out Swampert and has it use Muddy Water. Well, Courtney brings out her Ninetales and has it use Hyper Beam. Muddy Water hits Groudon, while Hyper Beam hits Kyogre, and it doesn't seem like it does anything. Courtney says, Ruby, aim for their front torso. Their head and back are too well protected. You can't expect to deal a lot of damage in those areas. Ruby says, okay, and Muddy Water hits Groudon in the belly. He feels that. Just slap that belly. Courtney says, good. You've learned some powerful moves. You've improved a lot since I fought you in Rusturf Tunnel, and your training from Mirage Island is kicking in. While Ruby thinks, the first time I fought against Groudon and Kyogre with Sapphire, we were standing in front of the Cave of Origin, just as we are now. Oh, that's the Cave of Origin. I didn't realize. They probably said it. I just didn't register. We attacked them with the meteorite then, but suddenly, Ruby's sleeve rips off on the hand that's holding the orb, and the marking of Groudon appears. Courtney tells him, focus. I told you to concentrate, didn't I? The energy's gonna flow back into your body through the orb. Although Courtney's, sleeve and gloves rip off on her arm holding the orb. Ruby calls out to Courtney. As Courtney says, I can't complain now that the same thing's happening to me. We've got to pull ourselves together and give this another try so they don't take us over. They both raised their hands, calling out, "We said stop!" Oh, and then they seemed to halt. Oh. As Ruby says, they stopped. And Kyogre and Groudon's eyes then shift to Ruby and Courtney, and then they start going at them. It's just like, you dare. Ruby gets on Swampert and calls out to Courtney, as Courtney says, "Oh no." But Courtney drags Ruby into the Cave of Origin, and she says they've decided to get rid of us first because we're interfering with their battle with each other. And as Groudon goes clawing at them, Swampert, freaking Jack Swampert, manages to hold off Groudon's swipe. Ruby says, "Nice work, Moo. Gather all your strength and use Endeavor." And with that, dang, Swampert just tosses Groudon into Kyogre like, dang! Yeah, Swampert, get it! Ruby looks over and says, "Courtney, are you alright?" But Courtney sees the fin of Kyogre coming at Ruby, and she jumps in the way, pushing him out of harm's way, only for Rubble to fall, on her back. Jeez. And while Ruby tries to go scrambling for Courtney, Groudon's claw comes crashing down, trapping Ruby. Oh man, these four kids. Courtney says, "But they stopped for a moment. Can I do this? I was chosen by the orb." But Courtney then notices something up in the sky, and both Groudon and Kyogre take notice of it too. They both look up to see Rayquaza on approach, about to come down and say, "You rowdy kids need to knock it off." Like angry dad is just like, "I told you kids to be quiet." Oh, both Groudon and Kyogre turn their attention to Rayquaza. Yeah, okay, we saw Groudon let Ruby up, essentially. And Ruby goes over to Courtney as Swampert pulls the rubble off of her. Ruby says, "Courtney, what is that? That dragon-type Pokemon that just appeared from the sky?" Courtney says, "The third ancient Pokemon, the sky-high Pokemon Rayquaza." Ruby turns in shock, saying, "A third ancient Pokemon? There is such a thing?" Courtney says, "Yeah, although people don't talk about it openly." She thinks to herself, "It's exactly like the files that most Deep Space Center said." In that case, okay, so that's what she was doing. And did she really have to beat up all those scientists to get that information? Then again, I wouldn't leave it to Maxie to not look into more information. They had information on Rayquaza. Interesting. Especially considering at one point in the remake, you fly up and get Rayquaza, but Rayquaza comes down and just pushes Groudon and Kyogre aside, like, "Knock it off!" Ruby says, "It's a three-cornered battle. The sea, land, and sky. The three Pokemon that preside over those three realms are all fighting each other." While Courtney thinks Ruby, the person who brought Rayquaza here, is as we see Norman atop Rayquaza. Yeah. I guess that's why they bond. Two dads having enough of their kids' BS. Now, chapter 262. It all ends now. Part 3. Courtney calls out, "Ruby, the person who brought Rayquaza here from the Sky Pillar is But all three of the legendary Pokemon roar out. A roar so loud it's deafening. Ruby and Courtney have to quickly cover their ears in pain. But Ruby calls out, "Courtney, what did you say?" Courtney calls out, "That Rayquaza is..." But suddenly something grabs her by the foot and yanks her away into the cavern. Ruby calls out for Courtney, and he tells Marshtomp, "I saw some kind of tentacle. There's something inside that cave. Come with me, Moo." Is then that Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza all charge up and breathe a massive blast out of their mouths. All three beams clash, and the impact of the energy knocks Ruby deeper into the cavern along with Swampert, and it caves in the Cave of Origin, the entrance to it. Ruby turns and calls out, "Courtney, are you alright? Courtney!" "Moo, move that rubble aside. We have to help Courtney." The voice calls out, "Stop it, Ruby. I'm done for. I don't know what happened, but my leg won't move. I can't even feel it. If you've got the strength to help me, use it against those ancient Pokemon instead." She rolls the blue orb out towards him, and he picks it up thinking, the blue orb. He forced it out of her body without any help, and we had to train so hard to be able to do that. He's so strong-willed. Ruby calls out again to Courtney, and Courtney says, this is depressing, and I convinced you to change partners with all my tough talk. Can't believe this is how it ends. Ruby calls out, don't say that. Let's stop their fight and then we'll compete in the Pokemon contest together. This shocks Courtney, and she says, you knew that I used to compete in Pokemon contests. Yes, the ribbon in front of me back. Oh no, it's Ruby who says this. Yes, the ribbon in front of me back in Rusturf's tunnel. It was mine. You pulled out your ribbon and burned it, right? Hey, is that Daisy? That looks like Daisy Oak. Did Daisy used to compete in Pokemon contests? Courtney says, I see. Don't remind me of my past embarrassments. That's right. It was a long time ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. The young Courtney telling her Vulpix to use Tail Whip. Daisy says to her, Clefairy, use Follow Me. Daisy says, I won't lose today. Courtney says, me neither. And you see her watering plants saying, times like this, I can't wait for them to grow. Courtney says, maybe that's one of the reasons I got so interested in you. But as the cave starts to collapse, Courtney turns, telling him, Ruby, listen to me. The battle outside. Ruby says, Courtney, I can't hear you. You say that again? He says, the opening caved in while we were talking. Courtney blows a bubble, gets her lighter, says, I have to let him know. She puts the bubblegum bubble on her lighter, and from her glove she says, I'll squeeze out the concoction I made by mixing lancet berry juice and starberry juice from my glove. It'll strengthen my bubblegum and help it float. She sends off her makeshift hot air balloon saying, take this to Ruby. Show him the memories of the fire that I've seen and experienced. And as Rayquaza knocks Groudon down, it knocks it towards the cave, causing it to collapse. Marshtomp gets Ruby out of the way as he continues to call out for Courtney. And Ruby sits there stunned. He says, the cave has completely collapsed. Courtney was inside it, but he then notices Courtney's bubble, which is so weird, floating out. Ruby grabs it, saying that's Courtney's bubblegum. Ruby looks into his bag and pulls out some paper and uses the technique of the lighter to burn out an image, which is the balance badge, right? That's the balance badge. Yeah. Ruby says the balance badge, the Petalburg City gym badge. The person who he remembers Courtney's words. The person who brought Rayquaza here from the Sky Pillar is your. And Ruby looks towards Rayquaza and sees a figure on top. Ruby says, that's my father, isn't it? Courtney. And with her last words, Courtney thinks towards him or through the fire. Whatever. That's right. It's your father, the leader of Petalburg City, Norman. Look at the flames of my memory, the things I saw in Moss-Deep Space Center, and how your father staked everything to search for Rayquaza. Oh, okay. So he was in fact looking for Rayquaza this entire time. But to what end? For what purpose? What would it be that would make him search out for a Rayquaza specifically, unless he ran into Maxie and Archie back when he was younger? Is that why the Salamence attacked? Chapter 263, It All Ends Now, Part 4. And the last chapter of this video. As Ruby holds up Courtney's lighter, he thinks Rayquaza is surrounded by ozone. Oh no, that's Courtney's message to him. Courtney says, telepathy, Rayquaza is surrounded by ozone, but you ought to be able to see it through the holes in the ozone. And Ruby says, I do see it, Father. Oh, I'm not gonna die. But then again, I know it's a different, because through this, I know there's a different Courtney and Tabitha. So does she actually die? Courtney tells him, you know, Ruby, I've been wanting you to join our organization ever since that incident in Rusturf's tunnel. So I've been investigating you. Your birthday, age, blood type, why you moved to Hoenn from Johto, your family, your childhood. During the investigation, I discovered that your father was the gym leader of Petalburg City. 5 years ago, he tried out but failed, and he only just recently passed his tryout and invited his family to join him in Hoenn. What doesn't make sense is that 5 years is in between. Norman didn't take the test once in all that time, and for some reason, he kept visiting the Moss-Deep Space Center. Turns out, Your father couldn't take the gym leader test for 5 years, and he was ordered to search for Rayquaza. Oh, so he was on a mission. Courtney says, Rayquaza is a Pokemon who lives in the zone between the sky and space. Your father Norman must have been investigating its movements through observation data gathered at the Most Deep Space Center. Eventually, Norman found out that Rayquaza had left the stratosphere and taken up residence at the top of the sky's pillar. It was the Pokemon Association's idea to search for Rayquaza, the third ancient Pokemon, and use it to discipline Groudon and Kyogre. Ruby questions, discipline? Courtney says Rayquaza has the power to do that. You control the two orbs and your father controls Rayquaza, and that these two factors have come together. You should be able to stop those two Pokemon. Now, go. Ruby locks eyes with his father Norman. And, well, damn, he manages to get all the way up right to his father's side like it was nothing. Like, man, the leg strength in that kid. Or did Rayquaza fly down near him? Yeah. I mean, she could just be unconscious. Ruby looks towards the destroyed entrance to the Cave of Origin. What pulled her in, though? And he thinks, Courtney, why don't you join us? That's what you asked me before, remember? But we were destined to be friends from the start. Friends because we shared the same passion for Pokemon contests. Thank you, Courtney. And the light on Courtney's lighter goes out. Ruby looks back towards his father, calls out to him, but Norman remains stoic. Ruby chuckles, saying, long time no see, but I bet you want me to concentrate on the battle. Okay, fine by me. I know what I have to do. And he holds out the two orbs. Oh, okay. We see Rayquaza use its long body to bind Kyogre and Groudon. And during this, Ruby leaps towards both of them, slamming the two orbs into their head. Norman has Rayquaza unleash a roar of discipline, and Ruby uses the two orbs to order the two Pokemon to stop. Oh man, there's suddenly a massive blast that knocks Ruby away, but he manages to land gracefully. Kyogre and Groudon are sent plummeting off of the floating Pseutopolis, which I don't know how that thing's gonna land. Ruby, Norman, and Rayquaza look over the side as Kyogre lands in the sea and Groudon lands on the earth. The two Pokemon then look up towards Rayquaza, who roars down towards them, and like two petulant children, they turn and walk away. Well, Kyogre swims away. Someone says Groudon and Kyogre are going back to where they both belong. We see those inside the Pokemon Association blimp, the president, and the president of the Pokemon fan club, Tate and Liza's elderly mentors, grandparents, whatever, Doc, Mr. Stern, Brawly, Roxanne, Flannery, Watson. They all watch. Ruby says, Father, everything is going to go back to normal now, right? And Father, I'm so ashamed. I'll apologize to Mom about running away from home, and then we'll all live together again like nothing happened. But Norman doesn't respond. Ruby turns, saying, Father, on top of Reggie Steele. Wallace says, they did it, Steve. Steven says, right. We managed to fulfill our mission and contain all the destructive energy by using Reggie Rock, Regice, and Reggie Steele, right? Wallace says, that's right. Steven falls, saying, that's great. What the heck? Ruby shakes his father, calling out to him, Father, Father, hey Father, Father. But Wallace shakes Steven, saying, Steven, hey Steven, Steven. But they're unresponsive as two sets of eyes glow within the Cave of Origin. Don't tell me they died. What? Okay, something is obviously still up. Two sets of eyes, that Maxie and Archie maybe? Was Courtney saved or was she pulled in to die? And did the Pokemon Association president send Norman and Steven out to die? But then again, to sacrifice for millions of lives. That's pretty messed up. Dang, I actually kind of regret ending it here, but that's halfway through the volume. I thought it was weirdly anticlimactic and kind of messed up to leave Sapphire out of the conclusion. But, there's no way they leave them dead. But then again, with all this, there's gotta be a way to undo a lot of this stuff. Something's not quite right here, and I guess I'll find out in the next video. Well, no spoilers, but let me know your thoughts on these chapters in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you later. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.